You spent 3 hours researching the perfect index fund. You read all the articles. You compared expense ratios. And then you bought that hot stock your coworker mentioned at lunch because it just felt right. I'm Tom, and this is Tom Thinks. I'm here to cut through the Wall Street jargon and give you the real talk on your money, even if it hurts your feelings a little bit. If you're someone who's tired of making financial decisions that look smart on paper but feel stupid in reality, hit subscribe and give this video a thumbs up. The ego trap. Here's the thing about smart people and money decisions. We think we're being rational. We think we're analyzing data, weighing pros and cons, making logical choices. But what if I told you that the single biggest factor destroying your financial future isn't lack of information? It's your own ego, your desperate clawing need to be right. Look, I've been there. You research a stock for weeks. You build this beautiful spreadsheet with projections. You convince yourself you found the next Apple before anyone else knows about it. And then when someone questions your logic, what happens? You get defensive. You double down. You start looking for information that confirms what you already believe. This isn't investing. This is gambling with your ego on the line. Now, here's what most people don't realize. The greatest investors in history, people like Ray Dalio, Warren Buffett, Charlie Munger, they have one thing in common. They're not trying to be right. They're trying to not be wrong. There's a massive difference. Dalio runs a $160 billion fund. And he has this principle called radical transparency. Every meeting is recorded. Every disagreement is encouraged. He actively seeks out people who think he's an idiot and wants them to explain why. Why? Because he knows his ego is the enemy. Your brain is wired to protect your self-image. When you make a financial decision, you're not just deciding where to put your money. You're deciding who you are. Are you the savvy investor, the responsible saver, the bold entrepreneur? And once that identity gets attached to a decision, you will defend it to the death, even if it's costing you thousands of dollars. Let me give you a concrete example. Say you buy a house at the peak of the market. You paid $400,000. 6 months later, comparable houses are selling for $375,000. You've lost $25,000 on paper. What does your ego tell you? Hold on. It'll come back. Don't sell at a loss. That would mean admitting you were wrong. So you hold for 2 more years, paying mortgage interest, property taxes, maintenance, and the market drops another 10%. Now you're down $65,000 plus carrying costs. But selling would mean looking your friends and family in the eye and saying, I messed up. So you hold longer. This isn't a housing problem. This is an ego problem. And it happens with stocks, with careers, with business decisions. We anchor to our original decision and then spend years, sometimes decades, trying to prove we were right instead of cutting our losses and moving on. The tragedy is that the smarter you are, the worse this gets, because smart people are really good at rationalizing. We can build elaborate arguments for why our failing investment is actually a brilliant long-term play. We can find data points that support our position while ignoring the mountain of evidence against it. We're not being dishonest, we're being human. Our brains are literally wired to reduce cognitive dissonance. So the question becomes, how do you make financial decisions when your own brain is working against you? The social contagion. Moving on to the second reason smart people make stupid money decisions. It's not just your ego, it's everyone else's ego too. Think about the last time you got financial advice. Was it from a certified financial planner who charged you $300 an hour? Or was it from your uncle at a barbecue who just made a killing on some crypto scheme? Exactly. We live in a world drowning in unsolicited financial advice, and here's the secret nobody wants to admit. Most people giving you advice aren't trying to help you. They're trying to validate their own decisions. Let me explain. Your friend buys a timeshare. He spends $15,000 for the privilege of going to the same mediocre resort in Florida for the next 20 years. What's the first thing he does? He tries to get you to buy one too. Why? Because if you buy one, then his decision wasn't stupid. It was smart. You're both smart. It's a bonding experience. This happens with cars, with houses, with investments. People who make questionable financial choices have this overwhelming urge to recruit others. It's like financial peer pressure for adults. And the closer the relationship, the harder it is to say no. Your brother-in-law wants you to invest in his friend's startup. Your best friend is convinced you should lease a car instead of buy. Your coworker has this amazing tip about a biotech stock. Now, you might be thinking, Tom, these people care about me. They want what's best for me. And sometimes that's true, but more often than not, there are mixed motives at play. Sometimes they genuinely believe they're helping. Sometimes they're experiencing buyer's remorse and want company in their misery. And sometimes, let's be honest, they stand to make money if you follow their advice. That friend recommending a mortgage broker might be getting a referral fee. That coworker pushing a certain investment platform might have a bonus structure. Here's what's fascinating about this social contagion. Test. The advice feels more convincing when it comes from someone we know and trust. Our brains are wired to trust social proof over cold, hard data. If 5 of your friends are buying rental properties, your brain says, this must be a good idea. Never mind that interest rates have doubled and rental markets are softening. The social signal overrides the financial reality. And this creates what I call financial echo chambers. You hang out with people who think like you, invest like you, spend like you. You all reinforce each other's beliefs. You all share the same articles. You all nod along to the same talking heads on financial news. Before you know it, you're living in a bubble where everyone agrees that now is the perfect time to buy that vacation home or that tech stock is definitely going to triple. There's no dissent. No one asking the hard questions. No one saying, hey, have you considered what happens if interest rates go up another 2%? Or, what's your exit strategy if this doesn't work out? This is how otherwise intelligent people end up in financial cults. Not literal cults, but social groups where certain financial beliefs become articles of faith that can't be questioned. And the scariest part? You don't even realize you're in one until it's too late. Stress and risk calculus. Now let's talk about something that changes everything. Stress. Because here's what's interesting. Men and women actually process financial stress differently, and understanding this could save you from making catastrophic mistakes when the pressure is on. For years we've had this stereotype. When women are stressed about money, they get emotional. When men are stressed about money, they stay calm and logical. Turns out both parts of that are completely wrong. Neuroscientists have done these fascinating studies where they measure cortisol levels, that's your stress hormone, and then watch how people make financial decisions under pressure. Here's what they found. When men are stressed, their cortisol spikes and they become risk-hungry. They get laser-focused on potential rewards, even if those rewards have only a tiny chance of materializing. They take bigger gambles. They chase the big win. Think about it. The market is crashing. Your portfolio is down 30%. Your heart is racing. For a stressed man, this isn't a time to be cautious. It's a time to double down, to buy the dip, to go all in on that beaten down stock that could make a huge comeback. The stress literally changes his risk calculus. Now, what about women under the same stress? Same cortisol spike, same physiological stress response, but their heads swivel to the risks. They take more time weighing the contingencies. They become more interested in smaller, guaranteed wins rather than big, risky payoffs. They become what researchers call risk alert rather than risk hungry. Is one approach better? Well, that depends on the situation. If you're in a true financial crisis, job loss, medical emergency, market collapse, being risk alert might save you from complete ruin. But if you're trying to build wealth over decades, being too risk averse during downturns means missing opportunities. Here's the key insight. We need both perspectives. We need the risk-hungry approach to see opportunities. We need the risk alert approach to see pitfalls. The problem is, most financial decisions are made in isolation. You're sitting alone at your computer, stressed about bills, and you're making choices based on your biological wiring without even realizing it. And this gets amplified by what researchers call the dog sled problem. In professional settings, women often do all the behind-the-scenes work. They assemble the team, work out disagreements, decide who needs to pull more weight. But on race day, when the cameras are on and big decisions need to be made, men take the reins. Everyone expects men to make the visible, crucial decisions. And this isn't just a workplace problem. It happens in families too. Who makes the big investment decisions in your household? Who decides when to buy or sell? Who handles the retirement accounts? If it's always the same person with the same stress response, you're missing half the picture. The real tragedy is that we've been taught to see these differences as weaknesses. Women are too emotional, men are too reckless. But what if they're actually complementary strengths? What if the best financial decisions happen when both risk-hungry and risk-alert perspectives are in the room, genuinely listened to, and balanced against each other? Because here's the math. If you only listen to the risk-hungry voice, you might make one brilliant bet that pays off 10-1, but you might also make 9 terrible bets that wipe you out. If you only listen to the risk-alert voice, you might never lose big, but you'll also never win big enough to change your financial trajectory. The sweet spot is in the middle, and finding that middle requires acknowledging that your brain on stress is not your brain on logic. The advisor problem. Okay, so you're aware of your ego, you're watching out for social pressure, you understand how stress affects your decisions. Problem solved, right? Not even close. Because now we have to talk about the professionals. The people we pay to help us make better decisions. And here's the uncomfortable truth. The financial advice industry is structurally designed to make you make worse decisions. Let me explain how this works. Most financial advisors get paid one of two ways: commission or assets under management. Commission is the old model. You buy a product, an insurance policy, a mutual fund, an annuity, and the advisor gets a cut. The problem is obvious. The advisor has every incentive to sell you whatever pays the highest commission, not whatever is best for you. But here's what most people don't realize. The newer model assets under management has its own problems. The advisor charges you a percentage of your portfolio, usually around 1% per year. Sounds better, right? More transparent, more aligned with your interests. Except, think about the incentives. If your advisor gets paid based on how much money you have invested with them, what do they want you to do? Put more money into your investment accounts. Every dollar you take out to pay off debt or buy a rental property or start a business or even go on a nice vacation, that's money out of their pocket. Their financial interest is directly opposed to your financial interest in dozens of small ways. Let me give you a concrete example. You have $50,000 in credit card debt at 20% interest. You also have $50,000 in your investment accounts. Mathematically, the smartest move is to take that $50,000 and pay off the credit cards. You're guaranteeing yourself a 20% return by avoiding that interest. But your advisor, you're thinking, if he pays off the debt, I lose 1% of $50,000 every year. That's $500 annually from my paycheck. So what do they say? Oh, the market averages 7% over time. You don't want to miss out on potential gains. Let's keep the money invested and just pay down the debt slowly. Sounds reasonable, but it's costing you 13% in net interest every year. The advisor's incentive isn't to give you the best advice. It's to keep your assets under management. And this creates what I call the investment performance trap. Because if the advisor's entire compensation comes from managing your investments, guess what they're going to focus on? Investment performance. They'll spend all their time trying to convince you they can beat the market. They'll talk about their secret formula, their proprietary research, their crystal ball. Never mind that 90% of professional fund managers fail to beat the market over 10 years. The entire relationship becomes about chasing returns instead of building a comprehensive financial plan. What about taxes? What about insurance? What about estate planning? What about behavioral coaching to stop you from making emotional decisions? Those don't generate fees, so they get ignored. Now, I'm not saying all advisors are bad. I'm saying the system is broken. When someone's paycheck depends on you believing a certain thing, you can't trust their advice. It's that simple. This is why the smartest people in finance, people like the founder of Switchpoint Financial Planning, are moving to a flat fee model. You pay a fixed amount per year for comprehensive advice. No commissions, no percentage of assets. Just straight up conflict-free guidance. But that model is still rare, which means most people are getting advice from someone who, on some level, needs them to make certain decisions to pay the bills. And that's a problem no amount of intelligence can overcome. Echo chambers everywhere. Let's bring this all together. Because here's where it gets really interesting. Your ego, social pressure, stress responses, and conflicted advisors. They all combine to create something much more dangerous. Financial echo chambers. And you're living in one right now. Think about your information diet. What financial news do you read? What podcasts do you listen to? What friends do you talk to about money? Chances are, they all reinforce the same worldview. If you're into crypto, you're following crypto influencers, reading crypto news, hanging out in crypto forums. If you're into real estate, you're at real estate meetups, listening to real estate podcasts, reading books by real estate gurus. If you're into index funds, you're in bobblehead forums, reading about the 4% rule, mocking stock pickers. Every group has its orthodoxy, its sacred beliefs that can't be questioned, and this creates what Charlie Munger calls a man with a hammer syndrome. To the man with a hammer, every problem looks like a nail. To the crypto enthusiast, every financial problem looks like it needs a blockchain solution. To the real estate investor, every dollar looks like it should be in a rental property. To the index fund purist, every attempt to beat the market looks like foolish arrogance. The problem isn't that any of these approaches are wrong. The problem is that when you only hear one perspective, you lose the ability to think critically about it. You stop asking the hard questions. And this is exactly what happens to smart people. We find a community that shares our beliefs and we settle in, we get comfortable. The thinking stops. Now, Ray Dalio has this concept called radical transparency. His firm Bridgewater, they record every meeting. They encourage disagreement. They actively seek out people who think they're wrong. Why? Because he knows that the only way to avoid catastrophic mistakes is to constantly stress test your ideas against the strongest possible counter-arguments. Most of us do the opposite. We surround ourselves with yes men. We block people on social media who disagree with us. We dismiss contrary evidence as fake news or ignorance. Our financial beliefs become part of our identity. And once that happens, changing your mind feels like betrayal. Let me give you a modern example. The financial independence retire early movement. Great concept. Save aggressively. Invest in low-cost index funds. Retire decades early. But what happens when interest rates go from 0 to 5%? When housing prices double? When the 4% rule starts looking shaky? The true believers don't adjust their models. They double down. They find new data to support the old conclusions. They attack anyone who suggests maybe the world has changed. This isn't rational investing. This is religion, and it happens in every financial community. Dividend investors, the gold bugs, the tech stock enthusiasts, the value investors. Everyone thinks they have the one true path. Everyone else is a heretic. The result? Smart people making stupid decisions because they're too invested emotionally, socially, intellectually, in being right to notice when they're wrong. And the longer you believe something, the harder it is to change. That's why the most dangerous financial advice often comes from people who have been successful doing one thing for 20 years. They don't realize their success might have been luck, timing, or a unique set of circumstances that no longer exist. They think they've discovered eternal truth. And they'll help you discover it too for a fee. Building your system. So here we are. Ego, social pressure, stress biology, conflicted advisors, echo chambers. It feels hopeless, right? Like the deck is stacked against you making good financial decisions no matter how smart you are. But here's the good news. You can build a system, a decision-making process that accounts for all these psychological traps. And it starts with one simple shift. Stop trying to be right. Start trying to not be wrong. Here's how this works in practice. First, adopt what Charlie Munger calls inversion thinking. Instead of asking, how can I make more money? Ask, how could I lose all my money? What are all the ways this could go horribly wrong? Then build your strategy around avoiding those outcomes. Second, create your own personal board of directors. Not literal directors, but a group of people with different perspectives who you trust to tell you when you're being an idiot. Your rule should be this: I never make a major financial decision until I've explained it to at least 3 people who think differently than I do. One should be more conservative than you, one should be more aggressive, one should be completely outside your usual circles. And your job isn't to convince them. Your job is to listen, really listen. Third, implement a cooling off period. Any financial decision over a certain amount, say $10,000, gets a mandatory 24-hour waiting period. No exceptions. Sleep on it. Let the emotional rush fade. See how you feel in the morning. Fourth, track your decisions. Keep a journal. Write down every financial decision, why you made it, what you expected to happen, and what actually happened. Review it quarterly. Look for patterns. Are you consistently overestimating returns? Underestimating risks? Buying at peaks? Selling at bottoms? The data doesn't lie. Fifth, pay for advice differently. If you use a financial advisor, consider a flat fee model. Or if you use a percentage-based advisor, be brutally aware of the conflicts. Ask directly, how does your compensation change based on what I decide? And finally, embrace being wrong. Make small, reversible bets. Test your assumptions with real money, but in amounts that won't destroy you if you're wrong. The goal isn't to never make mistakes. The goal is to make mistakes small enough that you can learn from them without going bankrupt. Look, here's the bottom line. Your brain wasn't designed for modern financial markets. It was designed for surviving on the savannah. It cares about social status, immediate rewards, and avoiding threats. The stock market doesn't care about any of that. So you need a system, a process, a set of rules that override your instincts when money is involved. The wealthiest, most successful investors in the world aren't smarter than you. They just have better systems. They've institutionalized humility. They've made seeking disagreement part of their job description. They've removed ego from the equation as much as humanly possible. You can do the same. Start today. Pick one decision you're wrestling with right now. Find someone who disagrees with you. Listen to them. Really try to understand their perspective. Not to convince them, but to see if maybe, just maybe, they have a point you haven't considered. That single habit, seeking out thoughtful disagreement, will do more for your financial future than any stock tip, any investment strategy, any financial product. Because in the end, the quality of your financial life doesn't depend on being right all the time. It depends on not being catastrophically wrong. And the only way to avoid catastrophic wrongness is to constantly question your own certainty. So go ahead, be smart enough to know you're probably wrong. Your bank account will thank you.
Found this interesting? Subscribe to the channel. Give this video a like, share it out, and drop your questions or ideas in the comments. Until our next adventure.